Hi, I'm Joe from the old garage. I'm going to show you today a technique to test the battery, the starter, and the alternator all very quickly by using a multimeter that has a min-max function. So if you look, here's my car, here's my battery and my multimeter. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook my multimeter up. I'm going to hook it to the battery. Obviously, black to negative, red to positive. I'm going to turn my meter on to volts. Reads 12.6. What does that tell me? That tells me that the battery is fully charged, and most likely it's probably in pretty good shape. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this function right here. It's min-max function. What that does, it records the maximum voltage and the minimum voltage measured by the meter. What I'm going to do to use that is I'm going to start the car up. So I'm going to just reach in here, crank the engine over. We've done the engine a couple times. I'm going to shut it off. And what I've just done, I've tested the battery, the starter, and the alternator. So how did I do that? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push my min-max button here, and that's going to give me the maximum recorded voltage of the battery in this case. When's the voltage at the maximum? That's right after the car starts. When the battery starts the car, when the car starts finally, that battery's at the lowest point it's going to be in the drive cycle. So when the engine starts to run, that alternator has to put out the maximum voltage it's going put out throughout the drive cycle. And it's 14.5 volts. That's exactly what we should be looking for. That's almost perfect. Then I'm going to push the button again, and that's going to give me the minimum voltage that the battery went to as it started the engine. And you can see it's 10.8. This will be different from car to car depending on how big the battery is and how big the engine is. Anything pretty much above 10 volts is good. 9.8, 9.5 sometimes is spec, but in this case we got 10.8. That's very good, right? And then we're going to go back, and it's going to give us the average, which isn't really telling us much, but we'll go back to the voltage on our battery. It's back up to 12.7 now. That's a surface charge because it was just charging from the alternator. We checked the battery when we originally hooked the voltmeter up. It was 12.6. That tells us the battery is in good shape, right? Then we checked the starter by our minimum reading there, the 10.8. Told us that our starter was in good shape and our battery could provide more than enough amperage to crank the engine over. And then we checked our alternator by looking at the voltage and maximum voltage, which was 14.5, which tells us our alternator is in good shape. And in those few minutes, I was able to test the battery, the starter, and the alternator. This test is just a quick and easy test to do. It's not in any way, shape, or form the most extensive test or a guarantee that there's nothing wrong with any of those systems. It's just a quick test we can do if we think we have a problem, we want to kind of zero in on where it is. And I thought it was worthwhile showing you. Something I used to use quite often. I still do on occasion. And it's a good test just to give you an idea of what's going on with the starting and charging system. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'm Joe from the old garage.